At our focus, Taiwan was hit by an earthquake of 7.2 magnitude on Wednesday. The earthquake is said to be the biggest one in 25 years. So far, the disaster has claimed 9 lives, injured more than 1,000 people. 2 Indian nationals are missing. Meanwhile, the missing 42 workers have been found and are safe. In the Hualien County, which was the epicenter of the quake, many buildings tilted at precarious angles in the mountainous, sparsely populated county. The earthquake also triggered massive landslides. Scores of emergency workers were trying to shore up damaged buildings and demolish those deemed impossible to save. A 10-story structure called the Uranus building that housed a mix of homes and shops was tilted over and appeared to be on the verge of collapse. Many of its residents managed to flee when shockwaves hit, with rescuers working through the day to free people trapped inside. Residents in Hualien slept outdoors overnight as more than 50 aftershocks rocked the region. Meanwhile, rescue teams are trying to reach more than 100 people trapped in mining areas. Drone footage showed mine workers trapped in a mountainous area of Taiwan's Hualien. The trapped workers were seen waving to the drone camera while standing at an outpost at a cliffside of the landslide-struck area. Most power has been restored after the quake. Electricity utility Thai Power said that the island's 2 nuclear power stations were unaffected. Taiwan's high-speed rail operator said no damage or injuries were reported on its trains, although services would be delayed as it made inspections. The Taiwan weather officials ranked Wednesday's quake in Hualien as upper 6. Or the second highest level of intensity on a scale ranging from 1 to 7. Meanwhile, Iran has sworn revenge on Israel after blaming it for a deadly airstrike on its embassy in Syria on Monday. Following which, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has now warned Israel, saying that they will be quote-unquote slapped.
The defeat of Israel will continue. Their desperate attempts, like what they did in Syria, they will be slapped for that, of course.
The strike in Damascus, which was reported on late Monday evening, destroyed the embassy building and killed at least 16 people, including 7 Iranian military personnel and 6 Syrian nationals. So while Israel has frequently struck Iran-linked targets in Syria, Monday night's attack would be the first time it has directly hit an Iranian diplomatic building. Israel, on the other hand, has not confirmed or commented on the attack. Now, after the attack, Iran also pointed a finger at the United States, charging that it too bore the responsibility for the attack because of its support for Israel. Responding to Iran's allegations, the White House said that the US had no involvement in the strike and that they did not know about it ahead of time. Further to that, on Tuesday, Israel's defense minister, without mentioning Monday's strike, specifically said that Israel is fighting a multi-front war. And to make it clear to everyone in West Asia, Gallant added that anyone who tries to threaten Israel will pay the price.
First, we are currently in a multi-front war, both in defense and offense. We see evidence of this every day, including over the last few days. We operate everywhere, every day, in order to prevent our enemies from gaining strength and in order to make it clear to anyone who operates against us all over the Middle East that the price for an action against Israel will be a big one.
Clashes between Israel and Hezbollah along the Israeli-Lebanese border have increased since the Gaza war began, nearly 6 months ago. In January, Iran fired missiles at what it called an Israeli spy base in northern Iraq in response to the assassination of another of its commanders in Syria. Well, the deadly Israeli attack that killed 7 aid workers from the non-profit World Central Kitchen in Gaza on Monday, well, reports are now suggesting that the attack might have been carried out with multiple precision strikes. Well, first let's take a look at where the relief group members were attacked in Gaza. According to the World Central Kitchen, the team was traveling in a deconflicted zone in 2 armored cars and 1 unarmored vehicle. The attack occurred when the team dropped off more than 100 tons of food supplies at a warehouse in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. The charity says they had coordinated the convoy's movements with the Israeli military. The aid convoy traveling along Gaza's coast road is believed to be targeted using an Hermes 450 drone. The Hermes 450 is a multi-payload drone. It can incorporate cutting-edge payloads with selected dual payload configurations. The drone is made by Elbit Systems, an Israel-based weapons manufacturer. The drone's highly autonomous and ergonomic operation results in high mission effectiveness with no piloting skills required. The system is easily mobilized and rapidly deployable. The mission management is performed via the Hermes ground control system. Reports further suggest that the Hermes 450 drone was equipped with Spike missiles. The Spike LR-2 missile has different ranges. If it is launched via ground, then it has a range of 5.5 kilometers. And if it is launched aerially, then the range is 10 kilometers. The missile weight is 13 kilograms with a twin-charge, high-explosive anti-tank system warhead. The missile has a rate of fire of 30 seconds when launched, while it takes only 15 seconds to reload. The missile can be mounted on ground tripod, lavs, and even helicopters. Well, Turkey's election authority has reinstated a pro-Kurdish mayoral election winner in the country's eastern city of Van. And the reversal comes after the annulment of Abdullah Zedan's victory in the mayoral election provoked clashes across the country. The Supreme Election Board's move is being viewed as another boost for the Turkish opposition, and it comes after Sunday's local elections. The main opposition party has managed to retain its hold on local governments in Istanbul and the capital of Ankara.
Our people protected their honor, the honor of its leaders and servants, its will, despite all the attacks. And we gave you a promise of honor on this square. We said, We will not allow these vultures to feed on your honor, your will.
Thousands of people took to the streets in Turkey's southeastern city of Van to celebrate the decision.
In the March 31st local elections, even though the DEM party won the election, people's will was taken from them. When it was taken, the people of Van won the struggle with a really strong fight and resistance. Right now, we are very happy, very joyous.
Over the years, the Erdogan administration has removed elected pro-Kurdish mayors from office for alleged links to Kurdish fighters and replaced them with state-appointed trustees. After Country Garden, another Chinese private developer has posted declining sales numbers in March. We are talking about China Vanke, at one time the largest listed developer in the country. The company posted contracted sales worth $3.4 billion for March. That represents a 43% decline from a year earlier. Last month, China Vanke reported that its net profit had fallen from 46% in 2023, the biggest drop since its 1991 listing. Fitch Ratings has downgraded Vanke's credit rating to junk, joining Moody's ratings that the cut the builder to allow the investment grade and warned of further reductions. JP Morgan Chase, meanwhile, has downgraded Vanke's shares to underweight from neutral this week, while slashing its price target by more than 25%. The company's latest figures come a day after Country Garden's home sales tumbled in March compared to a year earlier. The developer's contracted sales for March plunged 83% to $590 million, following an 85% annual slide in February. Country Garden is facing a wind-up petition and missed a deadline for releasing annual results, resulting in its shares being suspended in Hong Kong. China's property sector so far has shown little hint of turnaround. State agencies don't expect a notable recovery after property investment slumped 9% in the first 2 months. Home buyers are avoiding indebted developers on concerns about their ability to complete the housing projects. 3rd April 1984 is a landmark day for Indo-Russian ties. 40 years ago, it was on this day that Indian Air Force pilot Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian to travel to space. He undertook the journey to space on a Soviet Intercosmos mission. Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma scripted history by becoming the first Indian to reach outer space on board the Soviet rocket Soyuz T-11. During the historic space mission, when he was asked by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi how India looked from space, he said, "Sare jahan se acha," which translates to better than the whole world in English.
ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है आपको?
जी मैं बगैर किसी झिझक के कह सकता हूँ कि सारे जहां से अच्छा।
Marking the historic day, photo exhibitions were held in the Indian capital and the southern city of Chennai. Rakesh Sharma himself inaugurated the exhibition virtually. Speaking on the continued cooperation between Moscow and New Delhi, Sharma mentioned about 4 Indian astronauts designate for the Gaganyaan mission who received training at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, where he himself had trained in Russia.
I was just 35 when I had the chance to fly into space after having trained at Star City. And 40 years have passed, and these 40 years, I think, have been extremely productive for our country and our relationship with the then Soviet Union and present Russia.
As the Russian house in Chennai exhibited the rarest photographs from the first Indian space flight, WION senior correspondent Siddharth MP spoke to the Russian Consul General Oleg N. Avdeev on the space cooperation between India and Russia. Listen in.
This event, which took place 40 years ago, was a milestone, and not just for India and for India's space exploration program, but also for the bilateral relations between our two countries. It was a very big achievement when the first Indian went into space on board the Soviet spaceship. And this event, at that time, I remember this event was very widely covered in Soviet Union and in India. And that event, which took place 40 years ago, is still reverberating. The space cooperation with Russia is, between Russia and India is going on, and it does not stop. So, and this is a fruitful cooperation. So the first example was, of course, the Mr. Rakesh's flight into space, and the most recent example is the rigorous training which the 4 Gaganauts underwent at the Russian Space Center.
Have you ever heard of speech fasting? Well, it's a practice Scottish singer Lulu swears by. As the name suggests, the practice is basically when someone stays completely silent until midday. The 75-year-old singer Lulu says the practice helps take care of her instrument, that is, her vocal cords. While that might be the most talked about advantage of the practice, it also has several other health benefits. A 2005 study published by the National Institutes of Health suggested that periods of silence led to dramatically lowered blood pressure for people who practiced speed fasting. Another study from the year 2021 suggested that the practice helped reduce levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. But the practice also comes with its share of downsides, from not being able to communicate one's needs properly to research suggesting that people who talk less are taken as less likable.